My name is Dipo, founder, Get Care Africa. In my other life, I work as a product manager and I help build digital platforms.
My name is Debbie Ohiani. At Get Care Africa, my major role is to act as sort of a link between the company and the system of recovery and addiction and therapy in general. I'm someone that has been through the process, so I stand as someone who can advise the company on ways in which we can help similar persons like myself.
Hi, my name is Chinyere Ndu Okoroba. My clients call me Chi. I'm an addiction counselor and a certified mental health coach. I come from the basic medical background, but then post-graduation, I have several professional development trainings that has certified me as an addiction treatment and recovery professional. And also, like I said earlier, I'm a certified mental health coach.
Hi everyone, my name is Thelma Alozie Amakri. I am the marketing manager / creative strategist at Get Care Africa.
So I studied management and information security or systems at Covenant University. I think I've gone on to work in finance for about 6 years and then moved into tech. So I've worked with a few tech payment companies and I've also started a few businesses by myself.
In Get Care Africa, my major background and role was inspired by my own personal issues with recovery and addictive behaviors. I was dependent on marijuana for about 6 years, and then 2 years into my recovery process, I was approached by the team at Get Care to offer my insights on how the company can be tailored to fit Africans, Nigerians, and similar persons like myself that would need on-hand therapeutic resources.
What better this idea? Funny story. I was on a trip with a friend to Ibadan. And on that trip, I saw my guy toggling at a mobile app. And then I asked at some point, and he was Sportybet, right? And it was unusual because this person is comfortable. He's in tech also, and he earns quite a lot, so it was hard to justify. And he told me that it was something that he did when he had money problems, and that after the money now came, it was hard for him to drop. So it became kind of an issue or a problem or a habit. And then we went on that trip, we came back, nothing serious. And then I think the day we came back, after he left my house, I just started to think about ways to help him. For people that gamble, it's easy to make a case for people that lose money because you just tell them, guy, you're losing money. It's common sense, you are dying. But this guy was making money because even on that trip, he had made a lot of money. And then I just went into this hole. I went online to try to search for help, and I realized I couldn't find. All I was seeing was more companies that were coming to Africa to offer betting options, right? And then I right on the spot, I'm like, okay, why doesn't a platform that helps people battling addiction exist? I think he was even the first person I called, funny enough. And then that's how we started building.
So we live in a society that has become increasingly dependent, lonelier. People are more withdrawn to themselves. People are always pursuing the next fast, big thing. So that way, it's primarily an addiction predisposed society that we live in, where people can easily get hooked on things. And then as per the effect this has on the society, it's damaging. Today, during one of my sessions, one of my clients asked me, why is this addiction thing such a big deal? And I'll tell you what I told my client. I said, when I have an ulcer, I can still go to school. I can still marry. I can still raise a family. But when I have an addiction, everything else in my life stops. And so imagine that has a ripple effect on society. I can walk well. I can live well. I can't raise a family well. Basically, everyone is affected. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
What I hope we can achieve with Get Care Africa is to start a conversation. And usually when I build stuff, I like to set very little goals, right, that can do a lot, is to start a conversation around addiction. I saw a tweet some days ago from Statissense that was speaking to mobile app visits mobile app website visits for Nigerians. And right after Google, it was porn sites and betting sites, and then the other sites that enable gambling, so live score, flash score. And I was telling a friend that if there was a website that you could also order drugs, it would probably be in that list. So there's like a very obvious problem. This is something that you don't need to explain. You don't need a crazy pitch deck to tell any Nigerian. We all have somebody that has battled each of these addictions, or we ourselves have battled it. So I hope that Get Care can start a serious conversation, and I hope that we're remembered for even just trying to solve the problem, right? So I hope we're remembered for getting young people to know about the dangers of addiction, and to stop it very early on before they even get too critical in their journey. I think if I remember for that's something good I would have done.
I remember when I got on the first call with the founder, Deepo, and he ran me through why he started Get Care. I was very excited, especially because addiction is something that kind of touches home for every one of us. It's something that either ourselves we've dealt with in one measure or the other, or our loved ones have dealt with in one measure or the other, whether a friend or a family member. And having the opportunity to be part of a project that actually impacts people was very exciting for me, because I've always had such a huge interest in the human mind and the human behavior. And I believe that it is very possible for people to heal. It is very possible, no matter the traumatic experiences you've had. I believe that it is very possible for people to heal, because I myself have been on that journey before. And so being on a platform where we actually get to, hear people's story, come into their lives and actually help them get from whatever point they are at to a point of healing, it was super exciting for me, and I definitely could not ignore the opportunity to be on this project.
If you know me too well, you will know that this is more than just a job for me. A lot of persons who are in this profession probably have lived experience, whereas I don't, but I lost a very close relative to cannabis use disorder. And that was about 14 years ago. And so I think back to what would have become of him today. He would have probably had family, had a wife, pursued his life, but he's not here, right? Because of an addiction.
So we're looking to focus on 4 major addiction types. 1 is gambling, 2 is pornography, 3 is alcohol, and the last one is drug use or drug abuse. And we chose that because they are very prevalent in our society. I think the average teenager is exposed to at least 3 of these 4 very early on, without even the knowledge of their parents. So yeah, we're choosing to focus on this. It doesn't mean that this is where it stops for us. If we're able to build to a point where we can support other forms, why not? And the truth is, what we've also realized is that many people that struggle with these addictions always have like another one that they're battling, right? So in the process of helping somebody get over a pornography addiction, you might find out that they are addicted to their mobile phones or to social media. And at that point, we're not looking to take you away, right? So we're starting with these 4 because they are very prevalent. Everybody has a story to tell about these 4. But in the future, we can definitely do more.
My opinion about stigma. So I'll just give a brief stat. Out of every 5 people in treatment, 1 would always drop off. Not because they can't afford it, not because the care is not appropriate, but because of stigma. Because they are made to feel less of themselves, they are discriminated against. Just because they have an addiction, they are likely to pull away from the care. And I'd say stigma is a very trickish thing. It's very subtle, which is why even as a professional, we always need to check our subconscious and unconscious biases that we might carry along in this job. So you have family members who are very willing to pay for someone to get care, but then they abandon them in the rehab. They don't show up for family visits. They don't check in on them. They're like, please, let the person stay for as long as possible. Why? Stigma.
So the most challenging part about, working on these projects is getting people to warm up, right? And this is because addiction is such a big topic. It's something no one really wants to talk about. It's something that has so much stigma around it. And having to get people to, understand that it's okay. It's actually okay. You are not through addiction. And, it's just like every other thing. It's like having a headache. It's like having an eye pain. It does not define you as a person. So we're here to actually break those barriers. We're here to show people that it's okay to not be okay. Just seeing them walk from wherever they were to a new place, or have that glimmer of hope in their eyes that, oh, I'm going to get better, or I'm going to regain my life in some way or some form. Which is the reason why I'm doing this. It's for the people. I really want to see people get better. And so I'm excited to meet people. I'm excited for people to get treatment. I'm excited at the possibility of young Africans everywhere, having access to treatments for addiction, where they have someone they can talk to, they have someone that, that can hold their hands through the journey.
Stigma is a huge thing, right? With every battle. And the dangerous part of many of these addictions is that they thrive in darkness, right? So where there's stigma, there is an opportunity for people to die in silence. And I think the only thing we can do to try to cope or try to change what addiction looks like to an average African is to talk about it, is to keep talking about it.
The way and manner in which addiction, behavioral dependencies, and just therapy in general is seen by our community and our society. In Nigeria, we have such of a silence culture, deal with it internally, don't let anybody know. And that culture leads to mental health issues in general. So I believe Get Care would help to ease the stress and the pain and, a lot of the loneliness that these issues give to our society in general. Concerning addictive behavior, I would like to say that it's important we remove the stigma attached to it. That a person is going through an addictive behavior does not mean that they should be defined by that addictive behavior. There's so much more to someone.
A common misconception about addiction and addiction care in Africa. I'll say two things. One, people call it a rich man disease. They say it only takes someone who has a lot of money to sustain an addiction, but that's not true. It's a very big misconception. And also another problem and that misconception is that addiction is a moral problem. So people are no longer seen as, or someone with an addiction is not seen as an individual who needs help, but someone who is bad. So that automatically changes everything with how you relate to that person, how family members identify with the person in recovery, and how society generally reacts. Because people are considered, addiction is considered a moral problem now. People are called lazy. If you go to your place of work and say, I have an addiction, you're likely to be queried or even fired, unfortunately. So these are huge misconceptions, and they always show up in the treatment profession that I'm in. But then, moments where I feel deeply connected to the impact of my work. Success stories. Really. I'll share a very quick example. So I had a client who I'm going to call Mr. J. Of course, that's not even close to their real name. So the first time I met Mr. J, he was having withdrawal symptoms. It was a crack cocaine addiction. Mr. J almost beat me up because of the withdrawal, the emotional and effect of the withdrawal symptoms. I was a little afraid. But then, of course, that wasn't going to deter me from doing my job. Over time, Mr. J received treatment, got medication to help him, got counseling, received support. And today, Mr. J is not just recovering and sober. He's been able to push on with his life, pursue closer intimate relationships, which was very important to him, rebuild his family. The biggest challenge I've experienced throughout my career, one is suicide, and I'll share. Yeah, we do have some clients who are unable to deal with the withdrawal symptoms, probably because they were not managed medically as well. It can push them through the emotional cliff. About a few months ago, I heard about a client who was once in treatment, but then had committed suicide. It's challenging because at that point, you feel, what could I have done better, right? Then I'd like you to know that recovery does happen. I mean, if it doesn't happen, I wouldn't have a job, right? So recovery does happen. And reflect on what control means to you. And whenever you are ready, the door to healing is right in front of you. And, the keys, right? It's right in your hands. So when you're ready, turn the knob, walk into change. Choose life. Choose life.
We hope that if we're able to get these young people comfortable from early stage, they wouldn't even fall into where many of us who are older are today. Right? We'll come it from that point where we're having conversations. We're going to schools, secondary schools, we're going to universities to talk to them. We're going to even workplaces, because to be honest, there are many people that are struggling at work, and it's not because they are not smart. It's just because there's something else. There's another demon that they're battling, right? So have these conversations early on, educate people about it, and get them speaking. The other side is to connect them to help. So those that are already deep into these issues can get easy access to therapy. I mean, I was having a conversation just some minutes ago, and you need to be rich to access therapy in Africa today. That's the truth. But how can we make it a bit more accessible for people that are not financially buoyant? And that's what we're going to try to do. I can't sit here today. I won't sit here today and promise you that we have everything figured out. We don't. So we need a lot of help. All we know is that we want to start a conversation about something that is killing young people in Africa, and we'll try our best to do it. The core vision at Get Care Africa is to create a healthier future for Africa and Africans, and this is how we see it. There is no amount of wealth that you can build around someone who is battling these demons. Their life would never be balanced. So for all the work that young Africans are putting in today, if they are not able to curb these vices, tomorrow doesn't look too good. So we're trying to create a healthier future for Africa and for Africans, is to talk about addiction to the point that we get the governments involved. Because again, many of these things that we battle require regulation. For example, gambling, ideally, is regulated in the West. There are some platforms that companies cannot build gambling apps on. All that is absent in Africa, and that will mean that government bodies or regulatory bodies begin to put laws in place to checkmate these ills. You would watch a football game as a young African today, and you probably see like 7 gambling ads. It's not normal. It is not normal, and it is because there's absence of regulation or monitoring. So the solution we're building is for Africans alone, and I always say it to anyone who's trying to build something. I don't think that we need to build for the West. I don't think we need to build for the global community. I think there are enough problems in Africa for us to solve for. So in 5 years, I hope that we'll be able to get people talking. I hope that we'll be able to form very strategic partnerships. And then I hope that we're in a stable place, right, where we can build on whatever success we would have achieved by then. You can be a part of it by just helping us tell our story and also telling your story, right? So if you see content on our page, please reshare, because we definitely know that you have a friend or you know somebody that's going through these challenges. Also, if you have ever battled any of these addictions and you have recovered, please feel free to reach out to us and share your story, right? Your story can inspire hundreds of people to know that, one, it's not abnormal and they are not weirdos and they can recover as well. So help us, share your story with us, and also share our story.
My experience as a part of the team has been really warm. Right now, we are not so much of a large team, but then I would say that every single person on the team is passionate about what we're doing. We either have one story or the other that connects us together. We really want to help people. One thing I love about the team is that nobody on the team is, trying to just like come to work or, start a company. People actually care. I actually care beyond, being a marketing person. So it gives us the energy to go the extra mile, to put in the extra hours to, go beyond what we were asked to do. And it's very interesting to just see a team of passionate people who are warm, who are kind, and who are committed to seeing Africa get better.
What literally drives our day-to-day is passion, and the hope that we can change one life, right? And that one life can go ahead to inspire an entire generation. I think what sets Get Care apart would be the fact that, one, we are building for Africans. Two, would be that we are coming from an addiction. So there's a lot of mental health organizations that deal with mental health generally. We are tackling it from an addiction perspective, which I think sets us apart. We're also willing to do both the top and the bottom engagement. So we are trying to curb the problem from the source and also providing solutions for those that are already battling their addiction.